Hello, welcome to the next podcast for outdoor learning. What I'd like to do with this session is last time we looked a little bit about reading books and how we can use themes in books to go out and do activities with our children, sort of a theme learning approach. What I'd like to do is just to do a little bit of a short mini introduction on how to actually read a book. I know you're going to say that sounds so easy. I know how to read books, but before I became a teacher, I would sit down, I would read a book with a child, and then that would be it. But that you're missing so much, and the authors of the books they pack it full of so much information that if you just do that, you miss out on all of it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like us to focus on three words: recall, inference, and prediction. Okay, so recall, inference, and prediction. These three are really key to reading a book with a child. So number one, recall. Recall is when you look at a fact and you are able to say, for example, if I said to you, what's the title of my book? Well, who ate the cake? That's a recall question. If I said to you, who are the main characters in our book? Then you might be able to say, oh, I think it's the dog and the pelican because they're on the front cover. And you might also say, I think the dog's name might be Bob because it's got his name just there in small letters. So that's an inference question. It's looking at what you know. I know there's a dog on the front cover, I know there's a pelican on the front cover, and being able to use that to deduce facts, to work out what the story is saying. And then there's prediction. Well, we know what prediction is. I ask you a question: what do you think will happen next? What do you think will happen in this story? So for example, you might say, oh well, I think a dog and a pelican are going to try and wrestle for a cake, and the pelican's going to eat it. Obviously that wouldn't be a great story, but this is, so it's a slightly different to that, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a picture. What I love to do is every time I get a book, for example, I've got a book here, I've got another book, Greta and the Giants, just say, right, what do you think is going to happen here? Let's use our inference skills, possibly for those children that are a little bit older, so they've watched the news. You can see it says, inspired by Greta Thunberg's stand to save the world. Oh, who's Greta Thunberg? Let's talk about her. Let's think about that. And then we can see, okay, she was a girl that she spoke in the United Nations. She's fighting against climate change. Who's she fighting against? Let's look, who could those giants be? Because obviously giants are normally portrayed as bad people. Will they be portrayed as bad people? So it's asking lots of questions, just almost like a 6-year-old will do, but slightly more to do with the subject than just random questions. But these lots of questions so that they can almost have time to think of those random questions, and then they can answer them and just check that they really are getting to grips with it. Spend lots of time on the front cover. It's a great resource, and when you spent lots of time on the front cover, well, you go to the blurb, don't you? Okay, lots of us sometimes miss the blurb, but this is a really important part as well. The child is your son, your daughter, whoever, has given lots of information that they think the story's about. Let's check, shall we? So Greta lives in a beautiful forest threatened by giants. When the giant first comes to the forest, when the giants first come to the forest, they chop down the trees to make homes. Then they chopped down more trees and made even bigger homes. The houses grew into towns and the towns grew into cities. Until now, there is hardly any forest left. Luckily, Greta has an idea, so we know that there's some problems happening with the forest, okay, and they might have guessed that, so you already know a little bit. So brilliant, you can say, oh, fantastic, let's keep our eyes moving, okay. So we've got that. Let me share with you though that we don't just front cover, back cover, blurb, and then we'll just read the story. No, as we're reading the story, some stories lend it better than others. So some stories are rhyming stories, so you almost don't want to interrupt the rhyming pattern, but it's still great to. For example, let's have a read of this book. We'll only read the first 3 pages. Bob was Freddy's dog. He was. Oh, you can't see that, can you? Let's move that camera a little bit and get my face out of the way. Bob was Freddy's dog. He was always getting into trouble, mostly for eating things that he shouldn't. Bad Bob, no biscuit. So a great recall question here would be, what? Can you remember? Why was Bob getting into trouble? Because he was eating things he shouldn't. Brilliant, great. good link. Okay, I've seen teachers sometimes say, "Oh, do you know what? My dog always does that," and maybe link it back to something that the children know or you know, to give a little bit of a better picture. Okay, so brilliant, easy recall question. First page done. Boom. Freddie was a Bob's boy. Mate, you might find that a little bit tricky, and they might find that a little bit tricky. Bob's boy, what does that mean? Oh, you know when we say like, Bob is Fred's dog, it's sort of a play on that. So sometimes it's not even a recall question, sometimes it's not even inference or prediction. It's just a question that we can ask them, or not a question, sorry, it's just a statement that we can say just to clarify that your child, whoever you're talking to, understands exactly what we're talking about, because we don't want to be reading and they're lost, do we? Okay, this book's for them at the end of the day, as however much you're enjoying it. But let's carry on. Freddie was Bob's boy. Freddie was often in trouble too, mostly because he liked collecting things. Not more things, Freddie. So it says, plain, I hope you can hear me. Every week Freddie counted up his pocket money, and bought lots of new things from his Collector's Weekly catalogue. So far, he had collected 15 toy cars, 11 comics, and it's got lots of different things. And a great inference question here would be 4 pink ponies, which he sent back. Why do you think he'd send back 4 pink ponies? I might enjoy them. Why do you think Freddie did? And then it gives the children an opportunity to go, do you know what? That character, I don't think he likes pink, or I don't think he likes ponies. It's not really his thing. That's why he sent them back. Brilliant, great. We've got an inference question on the second page. You could also say, did he? If you were practicing numbers, for example, let's get our maths link in there. How many robots did he get? Can anyone read that, or can you read that number for me? Yeah, there, fantastic. It says 12, doesn't it? Give them another opportunity to make that link with maths. So, or you could even, another great inference question here. Bob loved Freddie's collection. It gave him plenty of interesting things to chew, especially the dinosaur bones. And you say, why? Why does Freddie like to chew things? Because he's a dog, obviously, and dogs love to chew things. And maybe you could link it back to a dog you know, or they might link it to a dog they know. And then finally we get, well, not finally, the book's not over, but for us, our little podcast, it says, Mum and Dad were less happy. Freddie, they said, there must be no more things. But that very afternoon, another box arrived. And so we look at this, and after we've read the text, we can see, this box, it's got a fish coming out of it. It says, it smells of fish, it says in the text, and it says squawk. So, brilliant opportunity for a prediction question. So you go, what do you think is inside the box? And you might get some children saying fish because it says it smells fishy. But then we think, that's a great idea, but the fish say squawk. I don't know of any fish that say squawk. And then they might remember, do you know what? At the front of the book, it had a picture of a pelican. So maybe they might link back to that learning and say, do you know what? I think it might be a pelican. And let's have a look. Brilliant. You're correct. It is indeed a pelican. So I hope you found that useful, just with but reminding yourself, I'll say, how to read books to children to get something out of them. Okay, thank you.